I had just come back from a late shift, expecting nothing more than leftovers and a cold bed. Instead, I walked straight into a war zone. A man I'd never seen before was standing in my living room like he owned the place, buttoning up his shirt. He had the kind of grin that made your blood boil. And there she was, Emily, my wife, sitting on the armrest, legs crossed, robe wide open like she didn't give a damn. Then he said it. She belongs to me now. I'll do as I please with her, and you better keep your mouth shut if you want to stay safe. No stuttering. No hesitation. Like it was normal. Emily didn't even look guilty. She smirked. Smirked, like she was proud of it. I didn't blink. I picked up my phone, dialed a number I hoped I'd never have to use, and said just one thing. You've got 5 minutes to disappear before things get irreversible. That's when his face changed. And that's when I realized this wasn't a one-time mistake. This was a betrayal so deep it was rehearsed, planned. And I'd been the fool that he didn't leave. Not immediately, anyway. He stared at me like he was weighing the odds. And for a second, I saw something in his eyes, a flicker of doubt. Maybe it was the calm in my voice. Maybe he didn't expect me to stay composed. Either way, the silence hung like a knife between us. Emily stood up and walked toward me, barefoot, the hem of her robe brushing the floor. You're being childish, she said, like I just spilled milk on the carpet. You knew this wasn't working. She brushed past me like I was a coat rack. That moment, I realized something awful. She wasn't ashamed. She wasn't even trying to lie her way out of it. She had made peace with betraying me. Probably made peace with it weeks ago. The guy, his name was Jordan, I later learned, finally scoffed and said, Your 5 minutes are up, man. I ain't afraid of your little threats. I didn't look at him. I just kept staring at Emily. What is this? I asked. My voice was steady, but inside, I was drowning. Is this revenge? Is it about that fight we had last month? Did I say something? Do something? She rolled her eyes. You really don't get it, do you? It's not about anything. I just don't want to be bored anymore. Bored, I repeated. Yeah, you used to be fun, Kyle. You had fire. Now? You come home tired. You eat your dinner in silence. You sleep like a rock. You barely touch me. I don't want to feel like I'm dying in a routine. That hit harder than I expected, because parts of it were true. I had been distant, focused on work, on making a life for us, not realizing she wanted something else, something reckless, something dirty. Jordan finally backed off and grabbed his coat. You got lucky tonight, he muttered on the way out, brushing his shoulder against mine. The door slammed. Just me and Emily now. The silence thickened. You cheated on me, I said, trying to say it like a statement. But it came out broken. Cracked. More than once, she said, folding her arms. I blinked. What? She looked me dead in the eye. This wasn't the first time, Kyle. And it won't be the last. I don't know how I kept standing. My knees felt like glass. Who are you? I whispered. The same woman you married. You just never bothered to really know me. The worst part? She believed that. Like her betrayal was my fault. I turned away, walked to the window. The city lights outside blurred into nothing. My reflection stared back at me, tired, older than I remembered, broken. She came up behind me, put a hand on my shoulder. Look, we can still figure this out. Maybe open the relationship? Maybe you need a little fun too. That's when I laughed. Not a real laugh. One of those laughs that sounds like it's hiding a scream. You're sick? I said, brushing her hand off. You let a stranger walk into our house and claim you like a trophy. She smiled. Exactly. A trophy. At least someone sees my worth. My jaw clenched. I wanted to scream, break something. But I didn't. I just turned to her, looked at her for who she really was. And for the first time in years, I saw her clearly. Not the girl I fell in love with. Not the woman I built dreams with. But a stranger in my house with sharp words, a cold soul, and a poison smile. And I knew this wasn't over. This was just the beginning. I didn't sleep that night. Not even a blink. Emily went to bed like nothing happened. Like she hadn't burned down everything we built with one careless match. I stayed on the couch, sitting in the dark, letting the silence scream into my ears. My phone was still in my hand. I stared at it for hours. Thought about calling my brother, Derek. He'd show up in 5 minutes with 2 baseball bats and a trunk full of bad ideas. But I didn't want violence. Not yet. I wanted the truth. And I knew I'd only scratched the surface. Around 3:30 a.m., I got up and walked into the office. Emily always kept her laptop there. She was careless with her passwords. Same one for years. Fendi Queen 85. She never thought she'd need to hide anything from me. That was her mistake. I sat at her desk and opened her MacBook. The screen glowed cold and blue, like a morgue light. I typed in the password. Unlocked. First thing I saw was a folder on the desktop named Tax Docs 2023. Except it wasn't taxes. Inside were hundreds of files. Pictures. Videos. Screenshots. Messages. Some of them dated back 2 years. Photos of her in lingerie I'd never seen before. Hotel receipts from places she told me were spa weekends with the girls. Conversations with men I'd never met. Jordan was just one of many. There were videos, 2 short clips with soft moans, whispers, and faces blurred in shadows. I couldn't watch more than 5 seconds of the first one before I slammed the laptop shut. I felt hollow, numb, like someone had scooped out my insides and filled me with wet cement. This wasn't a one-time lapse in judgment. This was a lifestyle. A double life. A cruel performance she pulled off flawlessly every day while smiling in my face and asking if I wanted mashed potatoes for dinner. I sat there, shaking, hands in fists. Then I found the journal. She'd always kept it under the drawer, wrapped in an old cashmere scarf. Said it was just for affirmations. Yeah, right? I pulled it out, opened it, and flipped through pages of her handwriting. March 14th. Kyle's too exhausted to even look me in the eyes. I faked a headache and slipped out to meet Daniel. He booked the suite again. He likes when I pretend I'm married to him instead. June 2nd. I told Kyle I was starting therapy. It's a lie. I needed an alibi for Vegas with Caleb. God, the way he talks to me, it makes me feel alive. Not like this walking corpse I'm married to. September 18th. Sometimes I think Kyle knows. He looks at me like he's trying to find something. But he won't. He's too weak. And if he ever did, well, I always land on my feet. I always have. That line broke me. Not the cheating, not the lies, but her confidence in my weakness. That she believed I'd just take it. I took her laptop. I copied every file from that hidden folder onto a USB. Then I tucked it into my wallet like a weapon. Then I took a long shower. I stared at the wall for 20 minutes while hot water poured down like acid. I didn't cry. Couldn't. I was too far past sadness. Too deep into something colder. When I walked out of the bathroom, Emily was standing in the hallway, arms crossed. Where were you? She asked. I looked at her. So casual. So fake. Preparing, I said. For what? I walked past her. You'll see. And I meant it. She thought she had all the power. She thought I'd just take the hit, crawl into a hole, and let her live out her twisted little soap opera. She forgot who she married. And I was just getting started. The next morning, I made breakfast. Eggs, bacon, sourdough toast, the usual. I poured her coffee just the way she liked it. 1 sugar, a splash of oat milk. Placed it gently in front of her as she scrolled through her phone, pretending everything was fine. She looked up and smiled. Wow, look at you playing house. I smiled back. Figured you deserved a good meal before the chaos starts. She raised an eyebrow. What chaos? I sat across from her. Tell me something, Em. How many men has it been? Her expression didn't even flinch. That's when I realized how far gone she was. Define men. I slammed my fist against the table. The fork jumped. Her coffee spilled. Don't play with me. Don't ever play with me again. She leaned back in her chair, still calm. You went through my stuff. You left it out like a damn open wound, I said. You wanted to be caught. She exhaled like I was boring her. So, what now? You want a divorce? You want to cry and beg for an explanation like some pathetic soap opera husband? I want answers, I said. Why me? Why stay married to me if I disgust you so much? Emily put her elbows on the table and looked at me like a teacher explaining something to a dumb student. Because you're safe, Kyle. You're the fallback. You're the guy who pays the mortgage and doesn't ask too many questions. You're the foundation. And they? I asked. What are they? She smiled. They're fun. Something inside me cracked. Not broke, cracked. That slow spider web break you see on a windshield before it all shatters. You know what's funny? I said quietly. You talk like you're in control, but you're not. You never were. You're just another sad, insecure narcissist who confuses attention for love. She stood up fast. You don't get to talk to me like that. I stood too. I'll talk to you however I damn well want now. Her voice went sharp. And what, Kyle? You gonna hit me? You finally gonna stop being the nice guy and show some teeth? I laughed. Cold. Empty. No, Em. I'm not gonna hit you. I'm gonna ruin you. She narrowed her eyes. Excuse me. I pulled the USB out of my wallet and placed it on the table. What's that? She asked, her voice thinner now. Everything, I said. Your affairs. Your messages. Your videos. Your journal entries. Her hand twitched toward it, but I moved it back. I've already backed it up, I said. Don't bother. Her mask finally slipped. You wouldn't dare. Oh, but I would, I said. Because I've got nothing left to lose. You made sure of that. Silence. The kind that screams. Finally, she asked, what do you want? That was the first time she looked scared. It was subtle, but it was there, right in the corners of her eyes. I want you gone, I said. I want you to pack your things and leave. Today. No games. No fake tears. Just go. She started pacing. I'm not leaving this house, Kyle. It's just as much mine. I stepped forward. Not after the footage goes to your job. Or your family. Or, hell, social media. That stopped her in her tracks. You'd ruin my life over this, she whispered. I stared at her. You already ruined mine. She turned, stormed into the bedroom. Slammed the door. I heard things breaking. Drawers yanked open. Hangers scraped. Suitcase wheels grinding against the hardwood. I walked to the bathroom, looked in the mirror. The man staring back wasn't the same. He looked tired. Cold. But alive. Finally alive. She left 2 hours later. No apology. No tears. Just one final insult tossed over her shoulder. You were never enough. And I didn't say a word. I just closed the door. And locked it. The house was dead quiet. Not the peaceful kind of quiet. The haunted kind. Every room felt heavier, like her perfume still clung to the air out of spite. I walked through the kitchen, the living room, the bedroom, each space stripped of her presence, but not of the memories. I opened the closet. Empty hangers dangled like bones. One of her heels was still under the bed, left behind like trash. I didn't touch it. Didn't throw it out. I just closed the door and moved on. You'd think I'd cry at that point, right? That's what people expect. But grief's a funny thing. It doesn't always show up with tears. Sometimes it shows up as silence. Sometimes as rage. And sometimes it shows up when you're standing alone in your own house and realize you don't know who the hell you are without her shadow beside you. By evening, the call started. Her number lit up my phone over and over. I didn't answer. Then the texts came. Emily, Kyle, let's talk like adults. Emily, this is childish. You can't just erase me. Emily, we need to talk about the house. Emily, I didn't mean what I said. I was angry. I didn't respond. Not to a single one. Then, just after midnight, I got a different kind of message. From a number I didn't recognize. Unknown, she's staying at my place. Don't make trouble, man. You had your chance. I stared at the screen. So Jordan was still in the picture. Or maybe it was someone new already. With her, it was hard to tell. Loyalty meant nothing to her. She just latched onto whoever gave her the most attention in the moment. And yet, somehow, I was still the villain in their little fantasy. I turned off my phone and poured myself a drink. I wasn't much of a drinker before, but that night, I needed fire in my throat to match the one in my chest. I thought about everything I'd given her. Not just money or gifts, but years. Time. Sacrifice. Quiet forgiveness. I remembered the night her dad died and she collapsed in my arms. I remembered holding her hand through surgeries, arguments, her failed job interviews. I remembered building a life for two while she was off chasing thrills behind my back. And for what? For her to laugh in my face? To invite another man into my home and call me boring? I stood up, walked to the garage, and turned on the light. Inside was a box labeled wedding stuff. I hadn't touched it in years. I opened it slowly. Photos. Our vows. Her bouquet, now dried and cracked. Even the candle we lit together during the ceremony, half-burned but still intact. I took out the framed picture of us on our honeymoon. Her in a white dress, me in a Hawaiian shirt, both of us sunburned and smiling like idiots. And I smashed it against the wall. Glass exploded. Frame snapped. And for the first time in days, I felt something real. I gathered everything from that box, every photo, letter, souvenir, and dumped it into the old fire pit in the backyard. The night was cold, the stars blurred above, and I didn't hesitate. I lit a match, and I burned it all. The flame caught fast. Pages curled. Her handwriting turned ash. Her smile vanished in the heat. I stood there for nearly an hour, just watching it all go. Not as revenge, not even as closure, but as a ritual. I wasn't her husband anymore. I wasn't her victim either. I was something else now. Something that had to rise from the wreckage she left behind. 3 days passed. I didn't answer a single one of her messages. By the fourth day, I got a knock on the door. Not a call, not a text, a knock. I opened it and found Daniel, one of my oldest friends, standing there like he'd aged 10 years since I last saw him. His eyes scanned my face. "You look like you've seen hell." I stepped aside. "I live there. Come in." He sat on my couch while I poured coffee. No one said anything at first. The silence between us felt heavy, familiar. "You already know, don't you?" he asked quietly. I nodded. "About Emily?" "Yeah." He rubbed his jaw. "How much?" "Enough to burn a city." He nodded, staring at the floor. Then, without warning, he said the words I didn't expect. "I was one of them." For a second, I didn't understand. "One of who?" He looked up. "One of the guys she was seeing. It was over a year ago. She told me you two were practically separated. She said you knew." I set my cup down, hard. "She said I knew?" "She said you agreed to see other people. That you were staying together for tax reasons." I felt the blood drain from my face. Daniel looked sick with himself. "She played me too, man. I swear, if I'd known." "You were in my house, Dan." His voice cracked. "I didn't. Not here. Never here. Just hotels. I swear to God." I stood up and paced. My fists clenched. This was someone I trusted. Someone who held my mother's hand at her funeral. Who helped me move that damn couch into the living room. "You should have told me," I said. "I thought you knew." By the time I figured it out, it was already done, and I didn't know how to fix it. I thought I could just disappear. The room spun a little. Between the lies, the betrayal, the silence, everything felt like it was tightening around my throat. "She destroyed everything," I whispered. "And you helped her." He stood up, hands out. "I didn't come here to defend myself. I came to apologize. I needed to say it. Face to face. I've lost sleep over this, Kyle." "Good," I snapped. "You should." He nodded. Took the hit. Didn't argue. "Can I do anything?" he asked. I looked him dead in the eye. "Yeah. Get out of my house." He left without another word. I locked the door behind him and leaned my forehead against the wood, my breath shallow. Another knife in the back. Another piece of the puzzle twisting in my stomach. Emily didn't just betray me physically, she'd gone deeper. She'd stolen my reality, fed lies to the people around me, turned my friends into weapons. How many others had she lied to? How many stories had she spun? I went back to the laptop. Not to hurt myself again, but to investigate. This time, I dug deeper. I went through her messages with everyone. Not just the men, but coworkers, friends, even my sister. I found flirty comments, manipulations, quiet strings she'd pulled to get what she wanted. She talked about me like I was a burden, a doormat, a sad, tired man she pitied more than loved. And every single person just agreed. No one questioned her. No one asked why she was still with me if she felt that way. Because she was charming. Because she was beautiful. Because she knew how to twist the knife with a smile. She'd crafted an entire persona built on lies, and I was the only one who didn't see it. Until now. But something had changed inside me. A seed of something darker had started to grow. Not hate. Not quite. Precision. She thought she was done with me. She thought she'd left me in pieces. But I was just starting to gather them. And when I was done, she learned that some men don't stay broken. They rebuild sharper. It started with the apartment. Emily moved into some high-rise downtown with one of her new toys, probably Jordan, but at this point, who knew? I found the address in her texts and made a few calls. Turns out the lease wasn't under her name, but his. I smiled at that. He didn't know what she was capable of. Not yet. But he would. The second move was the USB, the one with her collection. I didn't dump it online. I'm not that kind of man. But I did send a package to her HR department, discreetly, labeled, Urgent HR Concern, Ethical Review. No return address. No fingerprints. Just screenshots. Messages. Journal entries. Not the explicit stuff, just enough to raise eyebrows. Enough to make them wonder what kind of double life their darling Emily from marketing had been living. And then I waited. 3 days later, I got a text from her. "Emily, what the F *** did you do? ***. I didn't answer. She called. I let it ring. She texted again, longer this time. "Emily, my boss pulled me into a meeting this morning. They said they got concerns about my behavior. I could lose everything. Kyle, are you insane?" Still, I didn't respond. Let her stew. Let her panic the way I had, when I stood in my own home watching a stranger claim my wife like a trophy. I wasn't interested in vengeance for the sake of pain. I wasn't going to break the law or act out like some drunk ex-husband on a bender. No, my revenge would be silent, surgical, the kind of retaliation that came wearing a tie and a calm face. And that's exactly what I wore when I met with the divorce attorney. Clean office, leather chairs, a woman named Sharon who had seen everything and didn't flinch when I told her the short version of what happened. She'll fight you for alimony, she said. She'll come after the house, even the savings if she thinks you're weak. I smiled. I'm not weak. Sharon returned the smile. Good. Then let's prepare like she's going to war. And that's what we did. We gathered emails, documents, messages, everything. We mapped out a timeline. We put together financial statements, rental history, even the journal entries that hinted at financial infidelity, money she'd taken from our joint account to fund solo getaways with her parade of men. By the end of the week, I had everything loaded into a locked folder, ready for court. And then, I played my final pre-strike move. I sent her a message. Me, you'll be served next Tuesday. I suggest you start packing again. You're not walking out of this with anything you didn't earn. It took her 5 minutes to respond. Emily, you're destroying my life. I stared at the screen, thought about all the nights I'd stared at the ceiling, wondering what I did wrong. All the meals she skipped to go, work late. All the little humiliations I accepted because I thought love was supposed to be patient. Then I typed one sentence. Me, you already destroyed mine. She didn't reply, but I knew her. She'd be spinning now, running scared, trying to patch up the cracks in her little empire of lies while it all caved in. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I felt calm. Not happy, not victorious. Just steady, like I'd found my balance again. I didn't need her apology anymore. I didn't need her to understand what she'd done. I just needed to finish what she started, with control. And when Tuesday came, and that envelope hit her palm, I'd be watching. Because some betrayals don't end with shouting. They end with silence. And signatures. Tuesday morning came with cold skies and silence. I stood in my driveway, coffee in hand, watching the process server's car roll up like it was delivering a package, except this one would detonate quietly, without flames. I didn't need to go with him. I didn't need to see her face. But I did. From across the street, I watched as he approached her building, walked through the lobby, and disappeared behind the glass. 5 minutes later, he returned with a short nod. It's done, he said. That was it. No screaming. No chaos. Just silence, like the final scene of a movie where the villain realizes they're not the one in control anymore. I went back inside, set the coffee down, and looked around the house. It was cleaner now. Quieter. More mine. I replaced the bedsheets, tore down the photos, gave the couch away, and ordered one that didn't hold her perfume in the cushions. The silence no longer echoed betrayal, it echoed peace. For a while, I kept thinking there'd be one final twist. A tantrum. A threat. One last move to shake me. But it never came. She didn't contest the divorce. Maybe because she knew she wouldn't win. Maybe because, deep down, she understood I wasn't the man she thought she left behind. She had been expecting a broken, desperate version of me to come crawling. But instead, she woke up to a man who didn't need her validation anymore. And maybe that was the real punishment. It's funny what you learn after betrayal. You think the worst part will be the cheating itself, the discovery. But it's not. It's the slow realization that the person you loved never really existed. You loved the version they gave you, the mask. And when it falls, all that's left is the hollow face underneath. I thought I'd never recover from that. But I did. Not all at once. Not in some magical moment of healing. But piece by piece. Day by day. By the time the court date arrived, I sat across from her in the courtroom and didn't feel hate anymore. I didn't feel warmth either. Just distance. Like looking at someone through glass. A memory. A life I used to wear like a second skin but outgrew. She didn't say much. Just signed where the judge told her to. I did the same. When we stepped out into the hallway, she walked up to me, eyes tired, lips painted too bright. You know, Kyle, she said softly, you're not as boring as I thought. I smiled. Not bitter. Not smug. Just calm. And you're not as clever as you thought. She tilted her head. You're different now. No, I replied. I'm finally me. That was the last thing I ever said to her. I walked away. No turning back. No dramatic final glance. And as I stepped into the sun, I felt something new in my chest. Not relief, exactly. Freedom. She took years from me. Time. Trust. Love. But she didn't take the core of who I am. That's what I reclaimed. That's what I rebuilt. If you're reading this, and you've been betrayed, Here's what I'll say. Don't chase revenge. Chase clarity. Don't waste energy trying to change someone who was never honest to begin with. Protect your peace. Silence speaks louder than any argument. And one day, when the ashes settle, you'll wake up, look around, and realize the worst thing that ever happened to you was also the thing that set you free.